Hello. All right. Hello. All right. German Dundana. All right. Good morning, everyone. So we will start this session with reciting Lamrim Kappa Guru Yoga, and then at the end, we'll correct our motivation with refuge and bodhicitta. So if you are familiar with the recitation and you want to join us, feel free to do so. And otherwise, just kick back and relax. On the heart of the several hundred deities of the Chitta, on the peak of cloud resembling clumping with screening white fresh curd. King of Dhamma on Lawson Drakpa, please come here together with your sons. In the sky before me on lying throne, lotus and moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme full of merit from a mind of faith, please abide for 100 eons to spread the teachings. Your holy mind is the intelligence that understands the full extent of objects to be known. Your holy speech, which is excellent explanation, is an ear ornament for those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory renown. To you who are meaningful to see, hear, and remember are prostrate. Pleasant drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incenses, light-scented waters, and so forth. Oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated. I offer to you the supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three vows I've collected for beginningless time, I confess each and every one with fervently grateful in my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age and made your freedoms and riches meaningful by abandoning the 8 worldly concerns. Sever will sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds. Perfect pure holy gurus from the billion clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of the Dhammakaya, please let fall a rain of profound and extensive Dhamma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued exactly as they need. May whatever virtue of collected benefited teachings are known transmigrated beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect pure Lawson Drakpa's teachings to shine forever. Sashi Poki Jushi Meto Tamri Rabling Shi Nihidegen Badi Sange Shindu Mikte Owa Ihidroku Namda Shin La Chopashu. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lamrim Kappa and his 2 sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the victorious one, Lawson Drakpa, who had a morality of an eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious ones, and accomplished the yoga of the 2 stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyatayami. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, whole of beams of white light are emitted from the hearts of the perfect pure Father and Sons, and combining into one attend my crown. White nectar, the color of milk, flows from the opening of tube of white light, cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, and obscurations and the imprints without exceptions. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. We will recite the 5-line Miktima verse 3 times. Mimetewete chen chen rezi, jime kimbe wampo jambe yan, dopo malu jomze sanweda, kanchen kimbe tsugen tsongapa, losandra peshabla sowa de, mimetewete chen chen rezi, jime kimbe wampo jambe yan, dopo malu jomze sanweda, kanchen kimbe tsugen tsongapa, losandra peshabla sowa de, mimetewete chen chen rezi, jime kimbe wampo jambe yan, Dupu malu jomze sanweda, kanche kebe tsugen tsonga pa, lo sandra pe shabla soa de. Chondan soge chonlam la, chanchu badu dani kapsuchi, dagi chushegi betsonangi, drola penche sange dropa sho. Chondan soge chonlam la, chanchu badu dani kapsuchi, dagi chushegi betsonangi, drola penche sange dropa sho. Cholan sogi chonam la chanchu badu dani kapsuchi dage chushigi betsonangi rola penche sange ropa sho. For the Sun and Morning teachings, we have been looking at a presentation of the steps of the path to enlightenment. And so when we look at a presentation of the steps of the path to enlightenment, we can say that the essence of it is teaching the three trainings. So we have training in ethics, training in concentrations, and training in wisdom. And so of these three trainings, we've already covered a section of the teachings that explains the way to take up the training in ethical discipline. At the present, we're looking at the training in concentration.
Telda di telaya lamgiram bas ra kanji an tawada tamji kimbe salayan royage ani lamgiram bati tsuduna ani lamlaba sungnanglayan duidewachik. Teni tsujum ilabati pigita shiden tawatan ani tengi zingi labati dan ta sherab labani bodi ani songje gtoni ani tawada tamji kimbe kombon tibigita tabjilaya ani tablaya songdeyachik.
And so when we then cover the steps of the path, we cover those stages that lead to the attainment of the state of liberation and the state of omniscience, the state of Buddha. For that, we need those three trainings: training in ethical discipline, training in concentration, and training in wisdom. Particularly looking at the method for attaining the state of liberation and for attaining the state of omniscience, it is through the combination of concentration and wisdom.
Terda ditone deni tawada tamji kimbe salayan rodang rodi kandajiri islaundi tawada tamji kimbe salayan royalaya chik kangokda masuna chingindi dan 또 뉴문 비트바셋 라 뉴문 생이디 뉴문 슬라운디 가르스 삼레 예비기 다 지금 차당 모송기 다 사와 마리바기 지치비 된 차당 모송 기 토니 아니 람 신줄로야 라 람피기 다 지금 간지 아니 동할 종사가 고다마선데 되지네 아니 단 코발에 개발연수가 럼바디 아니 뉴무 체고연자 데 딜이야 동린 칭인디 딜이야 동린 체진 디바 순진진 디짱마 쇠니 아니 탈빌람라야 드래기 아니 탑선난다 람선난다 아니 지 아니 뉴무비 님보선나 디 땡인진다 셔르기 라바티 드레샤스라
So this presentation of the steps of the path that leads to liberation in the state of enlightenment also identifies the thing that prevent us from attaining the state of liberation or the state of enlightenment, the state of omniscience. Basically, what prevents us from attaining the state of liberation and the state of Buddha is our own afflictive obscurations. And so all of us have consciousness or a mind. And our mind is also involved with anger, attachment, and the very foundation of them, which is ignorance. All of them are consciousnesses which are in error, they're mistaken. And for us, they constitute the origins of suffering. They cause us birth in samsara. So we are born in samsara, and that's in a samsaric state, under the power of our afflictive states of mind. And so we need to purify our mind. We need to clean our mind, and we follow the path for liberation through combining wisdom and concentration.
딜다 딘자 페나 다 동할래야 당 코발에 기위기 림벼완 지원디게 마리바디 짜와체신 로 베다 신다마손 동보 짜왔다버디 아니 마리바치지 딜 때네 아니 차단광기 아니 미기빌레 간지 안 제무롱이 자와마 제체니 디 좀질래야다 아니 문디비 동하르세디 계속 림바디 고 딘디지 용거라스 이자 다디 갑티시온디 딜라야 동렌칭이 디순징행게 아니 람티시온디 아니 자와 마리비기 님보 무기 님보디 아니 셔럽티샤 로 셔럽티샤 쉔남기다 닐루 비게 아니 동행기 셔럽티샤 다 셔럽디 아니 세부당 뮤부당 템부 다 간지 슉쳔보지 용한 제발이야 아니 신이 troxi 라 미발에 템부 데투야 대 미고 세부 용투야 언더 더조사마 신이 trox이네 되니 셔럽들이야 가서 다지 나슈다마스네 제치네 아니 마리바 차단기 싸웠다 마리바니 진 점치네 아니 타빌람라야 거고 그래스 라다 딜리지 송고도 왔으라.
And so looking at the samsaric process, for example, looking at our suffering attributed to being born in a samsaric state in cyclic existence, we're born in samsara due to ignorance, which is the root of our birth in samsara. And so we are governed by ignorance. Due to ignorance, anger and attachment arise in our mind. And under the power of those afflictive states of mind, we create non-virtuous actions, what we call karma, which means that we act in a way that is inappropriate, which ends up in the experience of suffering in various samsaric states. And so to then oppose this process, to counteract this process, we develop a path that is involved with developing the actual antidote to ignorance. And so the actual antidote to our afflictions or to ignorance consists of developing an insight into the way that phenomena exist, into reality. And so we then develop wisdom that realizes reality in order to apply an actual antidote to ignorance. And the ignorance that we develop has different facets. So swift wisdom, and clear wisdom, and wisdom of the profound, and so forth. And the development of this wisdom is based on a concentration of calm abiding, or shamatha, which has two main features. Concentration that has the feature of stability and the feature of clarity. And so if we develop concentration of shamatha that has those two aspects of stability and clarity, it will give wisdom the intensity that is required for the elimination of ignorance.
디레자다 땡인승기 라바디게 셰럽레야 촉 제단다오디 로바 제단다오디 셰럽 슬라온디 최 남기기다 넬룩델레야 넬룩 토픽 로디 셰럽레스 라 넬룩디 넬룩의 신줄로도 중인데 말이 봐지 디 간다 쪼디 아니 님부 쪼디 넬룩 토픽 로디지 넬룩 토픽 로디 슈크첨보지 용해라야 비기 말이 비기다 지 넬룩의 신줄로도 중인데 아니 슈크첨보지 전부 디기 로쇼라야 넬룩 세부지 넬룩의 미비 시럽 땡보지 용해라야 아니 땡인증이 tro시고도 왔어. 땡인증이 tro시. 땡인증이 또기 아니 존더치는 샘피기는 미발이야. 지도 데토야. 데바자마스 미고 세부 용야지. 디 땡인증 컴퓨터기 용고도. 진짜 디 또기다 셔럽디 사와 뉴와 사바세디 아니 셔럽기에는 딘디기 셔럽디기다 아니 마리발이야. 갑지잖아. 마리고 좀고 그래스. 마리고 세바치고 그래스. terda ro tangan chu tartuk bada siauna dindiji lamram nimbu dindiji res phag gosa chor dindiji la phag res ro.
And so the concentration that we develop supports wisdom. And the wisdom that we need to develop is the wisdom that realizes reality. And reality is called by different terms. It is called the mode of abidance, or the way that things are. The type of wisdom that we need to develop is the one that will oppose ignorance. It is a realization of the mode of apprehension of phenomena, which is directly contradictory to ignorance mode of apprehension. And so to develop wisdom, and to develop strong wisdom that will be able to oppose ignorance, it needs to be based on concentration. Concentration needs to accompany the development of wisdom, so that when we develop concentration, we will be able to single-pointedly remain placed upon an object with an aspect of stability and an aspect of clarity. If we develop that single-pointed concentration with the aspects of stability and clarity, we will, on that basis, be able to develop swift wisdom, clear wisdom, profound wisdom, the type of wisdom that is required in order to oppose ignorance. And this is basically what the tradition of the steps of the path is teaching us, how to develop these two, concentration that accompanies wisdom.
일다 배낭 안쪽에 율직이야 배낭으로 수준 뒤라야 가리어바는 대비여바 있는데 비기다 매도여바 있는데 가리어바 딜이야 샘 때니로 샘 때니 규준도 가주스 데토직 때와이나 안줄람상 샘 셴바질이야 양도에지 여러와스라 디 콤보 메비 또기 샘 디페 셴발이 양초초로 가리라야 로 때와는 텔마데베지 로 셴라야 육초초 레온디 투디 아니 로델야다 뉴슈다마스나 춘중지마도다 용구여서 말이었어. 당원에게 비길래야 롯데 고사들이야 롯데니 대한 율디시부 지차와나 롯데래야 네바도마스나 슈크침부 레기여서레스. 딘자 아니 땡인즈 곰당 신이드당 그런 바디 율래야 세치도 아니 때 투야기 딱 곰지 땡한테 신이드바들레스. 신이드브드스나 간지 율직래야 롯니 샤니 규르부 대야 곰지 땡한테 야 신이드바스 라 디 곰지 간섬질라 곰비왕기 대통령이 차봐야나 라 로신 칸라야 만들어 다가라 대통령이 땡강 대통령이 차원디 디토기 아니 수수기다 류섬피기 아니 지 대부다 양부 강함에바 딘디지 용구여서레스 디 갑둘라다 미들야 아니 신의 드바스 신의 토바스 딘디지 송고도스라.
And we can assess our ability to remain placed upon an object. So, for example, if you have a book in front of you or a flower in front of you, you can take it up as an object for the cultivation of concentration. And when you attend your mind to it, you realize quickly how your mind cannot remain placed upon that object for a long time. Quite quickly, it becomes scattered to other objects. And so on account of not having developed familiarity with concentration, a mind gets to be drawn to other objects quite quickly. And so then to develop the strong power of concentration would mean that when we observe a certain object, the mind can become very clear about this object, but also to remain placed upon that object in a stable way. And so if we develop this type of concentration, a mind will then create a lot of power, or will be very capable, to the point in which our concentration will become a concentration which is called shamatha, or in English, calm abiding, which means that it is a type of concentration that is developed through familiarity, in which the mind would be able to single-pointedly remain placed upon an object. And when we develop this type of concentration, it also affects our body and mind in a sense that then can dwell without moving away to other objects on a certain object. It can abide on it, and the body and mind would become very at ease, comfortable. There would be no problems or difficulties being experienced in remaining placed upon that object of concentration. And so this is the type of concentration that we have been looking at in the last few sessions, the concentration of calm abiding, shamatha in Indian language.
Le thangbo kalaya samsalaya ji uktonlen khurang tolaya samsha mada migba chi masoni samlaya ani khaya samlo matani ani sam dus deyage thavji chebayna ani ji negabgi so dewa dindi tende ragyo sares ro yimbayina ya ani hangtong bi ta sherab yabuji kiyalaya 펜토야 각부차고 그래서 다 셔럽 야부지께 맞으나 아니 뉴무 좀 두고 말했어. 로 셔럽 뉴무 좀씩 깊이 라드다 마서나 디 셔럽 차고도 왔어. 다 셔럽 야부지께 쳐도 곰겨고 봐이나 미국지 샤네. 로 수수 가리 미국 가리 샤는 샘래야 미국지 샤네. 텔야 샘때 디 미국도 쇼르 치는 샘도 추게 양자 대샤 두 신 곰야디 다 수수 아니 셔럽 아니 공팔든 줘야게 탑이 약슈디 디츠기도 저 디샤샤스 간지 상기 취하나말이야.
And so when we take up this meditation on concentration, attempting to develop a concentration of shamatha, we might choose to initially meditate on the breath, on the cycle of breath, breathing in and breathing out, and to make sure that the mind does not think of anything. But if this is the only type of concentration that we attempt to develop, without using that also for the development of wisdom, it might cause your body and mind to feel more comfortable, or to be, even some sense of pleasure could come out of that. But it would be difficult for that to eliminate all of our problems without the development of wisdom. Wisdom is like a sword that can cut through the afflictive states of mind. And so without wisdom, we will lack the capacity to cut through our afflictive states of mind. And so we then, in our practice of the development of concentration, we attend the mind to a certain focal object. We place the mind upon that object, and when the mind wanders off to other objects, again, we place it on the original object. So we do it again and again. And that then becomes the best technique for developing later on wisdom.
There's Dindrigi Shini Dribi Kabdula, Sam Miwalaya, Zichi Teni, and the Komji Tembi Kabdulaya, then Gagye Mamu Tegores, Gagye Mamu Tegor, the Zodi, Chiwa the Gobasing it, Sampe and Masani, Miwalaya, De Tubayanaya, and the Siu Mebet, and it Casa Chandra Kabchiki were dear, and it Tengin the Dribi Kabduki. And Gajinjilaya, Gajinji Chagdos. Teni ya Migba Shanlaya, Chat Pena, Touch Sudatrola Soba, Tindilaya, and it's Chani, and it's Sam Shanlaya, good or Sam Shanla Trodra Tindi, Tindi Yungores. Tian thing is the Dribi Kabdugi, and it Gajareshas, Gagodos. And it thing is the Drugianza, Kabuki thing is the Drugianza, and it gave it low shame by Naya, T. Kabdulaya, and Gagoya Tinti Yungudos. Iwan Laya, Sam Shanla, gave it me by Shanlaya, Sam, and in Sombina, Delia Iwan Segdo, Goba Segmari, Chiwan Segmares, and the Iwan Segdo, Delia gave it low Yungu or the Inaya, Kabu, Tangins of Drugoenza, T. lawyer Makiwa Chichin, and it's Sam Mibali, then shook Jum Goyadi, the Kabu Legados. Chadshas.
And so we develop a concentration of karma budding in which we develop a single pointedness of mind. And the things that create problems, adverse conditions for the development of a single pointed concentration are explained to be either mental laxity or mental excitement. And so to begin with, mental laxity means that the mind becomes unclear. Even if it can remain placed upon an object, when it lacks clarity, it means that laxity has set in. And so that's one adverse condition that could play out in the development of concentration. Another adverse condition could be the rising of excitement, in that when we attempt to leave the mind being placed upon an object of observation, the mind can become captivated by objects of the senses, forms and sounds and smells and taste and tactile sensations. And so this captivation by other objects, the mind becoming drawn and being captivated by other things, that needs to be stopped. That needs to be counteracted. Even you can say that there are occasions in which, even if the mind is not captivated by object of the senses, it will still become scattered or will draw to other virtuous states of mind, which means that it will still become distracted if it moves away from the object of concentration. So that also needs to be stopped. Even if it's a virtuous state of mind that the mind becomes preoccupied with, even that needs to be stopped. And so it is not, so the mind wanders off to other virtuous things. We don't call it excitation or excitement, but it's still distraction. And so we need to rid ourselves of mental laxity, mental excitement, and also that sense of distraction. We need to develop the method or the ability to enable the mind to remain placed upon an object.
아니 내가 도서 신고에 들어 내가 신이 곰지 잡아이나 아니 곰디 가서다 곰디 누바데 데마치키 차고서레스 또 내가 마시바나로 내가 또 마시바나 되니 곰디 딱다 로마투게치 차도고레스 로.
So this point needs to be understood. If we understand that and we take it up and we meditate, our meditation will have capability, will have power or capability. Without understanding those points, we might attempt to meditate, but they will not really hit the key point. We will not really hit the key point in our meditation.
남경한테 딱 개월에서 나와요. 그 개월에서 나온디 랑자지리 아니 랑자레마도 도르샤 마레스 이네 갑갑기 아니 바까고야 딘지 단행에 표시원하지 딘디 연구도 왔어 딘자 수수 갑기 가르치고 왔디 아니 제토야지 쟤는 좋아요나 디 아니 마셔봐진 좋아요나 아니 메시지 딱딱이야 드러서리스 베나 라브종 포모로지나 라브종 포모기 아니 랭겐 쪼디 가리임바디 문진치 투바나로 아니 수수기 피기 아니 랭겐 쪼디 아니 텔레샤지 아니 자와 춘준질이야 아니 코르니 로데바이나 아니 수수기 메시지 고든 힘보디 라드로그라스 베나 나도지만 지바르다 랑아랑 제고양 원에디 마치는 런질 아니 자와 춘준질이야 차는 줘바나 아니 메시지 메시지 트롤라다 이 제고에도 제투요 말하다 라 어디서를 차도가서 레스
And so in general, we say when we look at Buddhist teachings, we identify the things that we need to take up and the things that we need to cast aside. And so virtues are the things that we need to take up. We don't need to cast them aside. But still at times, particularly here when we look at the development of concentration, we need even to put a stop to that scattering to virtue state of mind at a time that we develop concentration in focusing on a particular object. And so we then need to develop the knowledge of what to do at a particular time, at the right time. So if we develop the knowledge of what needs to be done also at the right time, we'll be able to live a life in a way that is meaningful, or to sustain that in a meaningful way for the remaining of our life. And it applies not only here to the development of concentration, but also to other areas in our life. Like, for example, for us as monastics, Geshe said, we recognize the responsibilities that we carry in being monastics. And that is the main thing that we need to be focusing on in our life as monastics, so that if we set that aside and focus on things which are incidental or insignificant, it's going to be really wasting, we're going to be wasting our time or wasting the opportunity that we have to make our life as monastics meaningful. And Geshe said that it applies not only to us in general, also Geshe said that for him it's just the same. We need to, as monastic, recognize what are the main things, what is the main responsibility that we have as monastics, and focus on that rather than getting sidetracked with things which could be insignificant.
Pena sanji 점된데 상기야데 심진기체 라 심진기체도 다 상기바레스 다 현등기체도 상기바레스 산지 점된데 다 현등데 개체무시 쓰네 란든 르당체네 아니 현든 제바레스 라 란든 르당원디게 피기다 지 아니 갸부 코네다 갸부 피기다 지 아니 밤메세다 갸부 다지 균을 론주 용수 줘봐 간지 소수기 아니 총무 부르니 전에 아니 내가 르당 전에 아니 현든 주기 있어온디 조 라올로니 체티 곰갸야 드렌도스 라 곰갸면 탈치온디 되는 원의 현든 주기나야 네버드 덴바 아니 가르 주고인도나야 줍퉁인치 차기도 와서 라 가서 디치고 와서 그래서 아니 가야 시공 아니 지긴 슬라바이나 제토야 니바요 말았어 니바 메디 테니 지긴 슬라나야 라바리 라비아디 사미야디 야고르데이나야 오네기 된다라야 펜투에 내가 제토에 가보러 왔어.
So when we look at that, for example, from the point of view of the life story of the Buddha, the Bhagavan, the Buddha became enlightened. He became Buddha for the sake of others, for the welfare of other living beings, which means that he did that through relinquishing his own welfare or his own purpose, let's say, and focus on the welfare of others. particularly when we think about it from the viewpoint of the narratives of the historical Buddha Shakyamuni, being born into a royal court. So he was in a position of power. He was due to become a king, ruling over his subjects. He had a family, a wife, and a child. But still, at some point, he gave up the life of a royal in a royal court, and meditated and trained to develop full ability to be of benefit to others. And so he accomplished a state in which he was capable of accomplishing greatly the welfare of others. And so when we think of then our ability to do so, first off, without understanding the way that we develop our ability, without having the knowledge, even if we think that I will be of benefit to other sentient beings, our ability will be limited. We're not going to be able to accomplish a great deal if we lack an understanding of what needs to be done in order to develop that ability. And even if we are fully committed to being of benefit to others without having the knowledge of how to do so, how to develop our mind, our abilities will remain limited.
대다 간지 소소산이 좀 된데 난신기 미약부치 미천된치 섬자 탐절이야 펜디드 통해 미지 제고 되나 아니 곰갸야들이스 곰갸야야 곰갸규게 비 추디 아니 장야 추디 원트비토니 드니 텔레야 곰디텐 대장야 로 땡인진다 시르 다 손제기 돈다 곰갸야디 디기다 원니 민남지 친치 미약부치 미상부치 디 소토그레 마다 셴바 강기장 소토그여서 말했어 소야기 차 아니 자긴 거는 여서 말했어.
And so if I myself were to become Buddha, Bhagavan, that'd be really good. I'd be able to be of benefit to others. If we think that this is my goal, to be able to become Buddha so that I'd be able to set others in a state of happiness and benefit, what we need to do is to meditate. We need to train. We need to train in order to develop wisdom and concentration. The way to develop full capacity to be of benefit to others would be through forming a heart or mind to become kind, to become positive or good, to develop a wisdom, to become smart or intelligent. There's no other way other than developing our mind for developing the full capacity of being of benefit to others.
미 약부지용에라 ben다 아니 잠지징 미지용에라야 잠지 곰 잠질래야 곰지 된 거야 나시 그러 미비 상부지용에라야 다지 콘트로당 차도당 렌선로 소바 용당에라야 아니 로 상부 쳐려야 아니 곰지 때야래샤마도 젬바탑시제마도 서로 젬바탑시제면서 아니 곰갸당 그런바디 아니 미규 텐디지라 미니다 아니 실라키 아니 곰디 송고레스라 당한지시에 디르다
And so to become that kind-hearted person, a good-hearted person, we meditate on, for example, a sense of affection to others, consideration or care for others. We form a mind or a heart to be kind. And together with that, we also need to reduce the power of afflictive states of mind, of disturbing emotions, anger and hostility and pride and jealousy and so forth. We need to habituate our mind with positive states. There is no other way to form a heart or mind to develop, to become kind or good. And so for that end, here we're looking at meditation techniques that combine the development of wisdom and concentration, particularly in the form of concentration that is calm abiding, shamatha, and the wisdom of special insight, which is called vipassana.
대단한 증상들이 들었어. 진구지 고요점이 무척이 이번에서 곰비스 진구 좀 맞은 시즌도 시즌 깨트버시 고소세.
Kavologia?
가장이 늘 땡인지 깨면 추사 치외소 디시 로시미 냠뇽기 때는 공름도 송부터 레버를 달랑 것을 차오스 참 진짜로 샤메
Niba, okay, dila niba chingugi kowa
요점 좀
yotsangi.
무척이스 어디래
And so picking up then from the point that we left off in the previous session, we're looking at a presentation of that was given by the great master Lama Tsongkhapa in his middling stages of the path. So we will now pick up on the point of the method for generating vigilance that recognizes laxity and excitement during meditation. And Lama Tsongkhapa says it is not enough to merely have an understanding of laxity and excitement. Rather, you need to be able to generate vigilance that knows precisely whether laxity or excitement have arisen during your meditation.
대한스 시진 톱딩 림기 기비 친구 중에 대마타도 딩은스미 시진 끼토바 따주메 무슨 마기비 기비 트러블체바니 리비 시진 끼고데스 아니 다도 세우라서라 공름 치마니레 셈 징음 진도 도번 토나스 셈 징음 진도 도번 토나 셰당 셈 고본 고도 도번 통 시송비 체르스 sabzo 제고 그랬어라다 sabzo 제고 그랬어
So Lama Tsongkhapa continues in saying, in fact, in your cultivation of powerful vigilance, you not only need the vigilance that identifies laxity and excitement as soon as they arise, you also need vigilance that knows them when they are just about to rise, but have not actually arisen. As it is says in the second and third stages of meditation, if you notice laxity in the mind or suspect it might arise, and noticing excitement in the mind or suspecting it might arise. Here, Lama Tsongkhapa says, until you generate this kind of vigilance, you cannot identify laxity or excitement if they arise, which means that in the cultivation of concentration, we need to tread carefully to be able not only to identify laxity or excitement already arisen, but also to identify the states in which they are about to arise.
대타위 시신식 마키 파르든 디 파르라 증거 매비 곰 꿰미 총시 탁세장 땡도 먼저데스 증거 중에 니벌 밀리비 체데 시신 톱데 마키 비체로스 대다리야 온탈리에 지원다 거버 똑바당 시 증거 똑발라 시신 거버 손비체로 대단한 증거 중에 머리바 미시비 시신 마키노 튜림부 곰로 제장 증거신도 무서워 증거 참무 튄다고스
You might assess that from this point to that point, there was flawless meditation without laxity or excitement, but that would be unsubstantiated because without that powerful vigilance, you could not be certain. In accordance with that, distinguishing the middle from the extremes, a text by Maitreya, when it says, once laxity and excitement are realized, teaches that you need vigilance to notice laxity and excitement. Therefore, if the vigilance that cannot fail to know laxity and excitement has not arisen, you could meditate for a long time and even spend years with subtle laxity and excitement without noticing that they are occurring.
오늘 시즌데 지들께 냠나 들랑갈 템비기 템비경룩데 템비경룩데 그래서 들랑갈 템비 템비경룩데
You
같이 쉬지인데스 템비경룩데 아니 올해 들랑갈 템비 템비경룩데 유 같이 쉬지인데스 Dadir temba gün demba te kinuna miwa jeni indrowa ga nubi chingo kiba yurimbu mutsorwa dogbe chingo doglabi chedi temba nyambi tuji chingo rigbatan mani bi tuji chingo rigbi tu rindon ni nyongwa la kone tena chesa los.
Well then, how do you generate vigilance? One very essential cause is a method for maintaining mindfulness presented above. If you can generate continuous mindfulness in that manner, you will be able to stop forgetting the object and mentally wandering off. You will thereby reverse long-term insensitivity to the arising of laxity and excitement and come to recognize laxity and excitement easily. This is very clear when, from the perspective of your own experience, you compare the amount of time it takes you to know laxity and excitement when mindfulness has deteriorated with the amount of time it takes you when it has not.
어디래 다 nyongla kona chesa los ta nganzul nyongmena ta nyong tingirwas ta tela gonu chunjule kyang kanse temba yi gonu son yuten de nekirwa tezi shijin on gyushin shedan ondin de shile kyang temba shijin gi gyur son sos.
So here Lama Tsongkhapa says that we hone those abilities through developing experience in our cultivation of concentration. Without that experience, it would be difficult to recognize them. And so with this understanding, Shantideva says in entering the Bodhisattva way, when mindfulness is there to stay at the gate of the mind to guard it, at that point, vigilance will come. Explanation of distinguishing of the middle from the extremes also explains mindfulness as a cause of vigilance.
dirida temba yakbu jiyabanang har migba tembi tembati migba tembi tembati tembu yabu janaro ani dini ani migba tela teondi ani sem shana yimi kaptula ya sem imbare ani sem la chiyong kabre ani sem gobi kawla ya ani tagda ani 친구 그 kyung 그 예매디 시진 그 따투게라야 펜도 슈여레스 라 미버 팀비 템바 야부지 메나 되니 아니 지원다 곰니 노리아기 닌가 요레스 어디순 것을
What Lama Tsongkhapa is likely to be indicating here is what occurs when we sustain mindfulness with an object which have chosen originally. We turn the mind to that object. We sustain mindfulness without forgetting that object. Vigilance, or vigilance sometimes is called introspection or alertness. It detects when the mind either becomes distracted to other objects or when laxity sets in. So vigilance recognizes that. And so without sustaining vigilance in the cultivation of mindfulness, there is a danger that mistakes will creep in the form of laxity or excitation.
Good morning, Jesus.
Have you just opened your eyes?
Goodness. Chambadita Gukishu Teres, Laura. Miwa Majaban de any Chambakyon Ludita, Dengenzing Gukashishu Chigres. The Guchiness, Sam Pakuso, Somi Nambala, Miwa, Nyon, Rixum, Satsum Sok, Zanamla Mini, Harshabatar, Chambatimbiangani, Tele Shendon Trumuntrola. 자란투리 체네 샘즈마 인데 데니 시진 교회 내도 송스 대단히 존중을 류다 샘기 내거라 양다 양도 딱자와 대대 권은 돌는 시신송이 생기도 시송받다로스.
And so Jetson Kappa continues with this explanation, saying one such cause is to focus the mind on the apprehended object, such as an image of a deity's body and the like, or on the apprehending subject, such as the experience of mere awareness or mere clarity. Then apply mindfulness as explained above. Focus the mind and continuously observe whether it is scattering. This should be understood as the essential point for maintaining vigilance. In accordance with that, Shantideva's entering the Bodhisattva way also says, investigating again and again the state of body and mind in brief, just that alone is the definition of the guarding of vigilance.
대는 니니 친구 기비 첩 제반니 리비 시신께라 템바텐 주기니 이닌 주위 쟁인 고베 레벨 믹치고소스.
By doing this, you therefore generate vigilance that is aware of any laxity and excitement when they are about to arise. By means of applying mindfulness, on the other hand, the forgetfulness of your mind being distracted and wandering off is stopped so that you observe well. You need to distinguish between them.
통마들이야 직 소수게다 아니 좀 된디 굿다우야 라 아니 약부직 제라 나kulli용 스토바 아니 우숙돌니 있네 아니 샤비기 티기 파르다 아니 찬자지 세우지 야니안지 제 아니 슈당 라 차샤당 쟁기스당 지겨라다 아니 구zu그베 아니 비기 입찬상 지제니 라 아니 믹좀 섬다나야 샘라야 탈린 샤데치 라 아니 믹체니스 아니 콘다디 메사기 네질란드니 섬나다메 카드기나야 아니 콘다디 직 샘나라야 사 샤데치 다 소고와사레스 다 디스는 딘디게다 아니 zonwe number senanda zimbisa number senanda kanji rangi semla ya si shade ti tel sem tene ani gom gogres ra ta di gom bi khabdula ya migba dili shembi ge ani yula ya sem dro yo ba na ani shijin gi shara chechin sem gu sut ni ya sem jamba ji gi ta ni ani sem du chu tanji sozula ya si yo migba di gan la ya sem chu shach odusu 아니 균장야들이스 로 균장야들다 시진경이기다 네 연애면은 테레스
And so as Lamrim Kappa explained earlier, first off, as we take up this meditation, if we were to focus on an image or a body of the Buddha, the Bhagavan, first of all, we need to get a good representation, be it painting or a statue. And the first thing to do would be to repeatedly observe that and to study the details. And we do that carefully. We scan that image, that statue, right from the head, from the crown, all the way down to the feet. We observe the manner in which the hands are resting on the body, the way that the statue or the image is sitting cross-legged. We observe the way that the eyes are gazing, the general shape of that image. And so once we study all those details clearly, we need to get to the point in which even when we close our eyes, we have a way of making that image clearly appear to our mind. Or alternatively, even when our eyes are open, if we are not in front of that statue or image, when are not there, there will still be an ability to make that image clearly appear to our mind. And so this is what we need to do. And as Lamrim Kappa says, you can either focus on an apprehended object like that, like Buddha image, or you can focus on the apprehending consciousness. This is what we need to meditate on. And so during the occasions in which the mind becomes distracted to other objects, we then need to use mindfulness as a spy. That mindfulness monitors, vigilance is a spy. So vigilance monitors the mind and discovers occasions in which the mind has become scattered or distracted to other objects. And so we then place the mind back on the object of mindfulness. And so when we do it repeatedly, we are working on extending a continuous flow of mindfulness that is attended to that object of meditation. This is the way of sustaining mindfulness, the way of sustaining vigilance. Lady Jane? How do you go about focusing on awareness? Dila zonwa tan zimba zomba ya mana zimba la gongo gresen chicks. Sondwa. Zonwa ya mana zimba. Chezan zimba dila make makane chichego yonas.
Zinamla and the dig now. Zinamla. Chedang zimba said the same dress. Zonasing the Yuldres. Right, and it's same layer, same shani, gomsu yunguyores. Right, same dia ko yulg chujeres. Same di yuldichiniki, gomsu yungores. Right.
Yeah, chezon kuran gomtan kalechinas.
P the gomdan di, and the same silawan digi, sugjing chunanshinji. 도도진 통해요 말아왔어. 다 샘도 가르르스람디 샘래야 샘 기사릭스라라 샘 기치니자온디 살션릭 버스. 다 간지 율사위샷 율릭비샷. 먼저 도스타온디 아니 계란기 안 통돼야 이 계란 통돼야 시우 통돼야디 계란 나사와디 계란기 샘레스다라 계란 샘레스. 디사와들이야 율사위샷들이야 아니 샘때 샘때 때는 고미아들이스. 근데 다 샘순 주치는 받제셔야 기마다.
And so Lamrim Kappa indeed says that we develop that combination of mindfulness and vigilance, either being placed on an apprehended object or the apprehender. Now, the word apprehender refers to the mind or the consciousness. And so we can cultivate a meditation in which the mind is placed on mind, taking the mind as an object. And so what would that entail? Well, first off, the mind is not a physical phenomenon. It's not a physical phenomenon. When we explain what the mind is, we said that the mind is an entity of clarity and cognition. It is mere clarity and cognition. So the clarity bit in that explanation refers to clarity with respect to the object of that awareness. In that, for example, here we see each other. So Geshe said that he sees you and you see him. And so there is a clarity with respect to the object. The mind is clear, clarifying an object. And so in attending mindfulness, focusing on or sustaining mindfulness, focusing on the mind, we can, for example, focus on this clarity aspect.
먼저 엔듀가 적천부터 속이 때니 세몽을 쳐봐디 개정을 쓰고래서 아주 레
Amongst practitioners of a tradition that is called Dzogchen, or the Great Completion, an introduction to the nature of the mind is considered to be a vital step.
레다디 다 들이다 제가 셈바 US.
Have you got other questions? Mr. Ben? All right, is a state of calm abiding a neutral state of mind or a virtuous state of mind? Shinese di gewala shagirve lumatena shagiris.
나조와 용초서레스.
There are different types of calm abidings, in the sense that some can be virtuous, but you can also have neutral.
라다 지단 콜 먼저 게와당 메게와세티 콜론라야 라레고라스. 야 유르그차니야 라레사레스. 베나 산기 꾸타발라 미미 신이드원디티 게와샤초도스. 더 지단 간소기다 로마땡기다 최든리어라 베나 메돌라 소바 아니 로라 소바 딘리질이야 셈 때바sam게티 게삼라연 로고야 윤세시키면도스로 로마데 샤초다 디미기월은 조고야 윤세면도 디게월은 조야기 윤세시키요 말스 콜론다 만드디 디셈도 로마데 샤초와서레스.
And so often we distinguish between virtues and non-virtues according to the motivation. So something can become virtuous or non-virtuous due to the motivation that preceded it. So that's one way. Or another way of distinguishing between virtue and non-virtue would be from the point of view of the observed object. And so, for example, if the object that you choose for observation would be a Buddha image, then that would also make it virtue. And so, alternatively, we can look at other objects that you might choose. Like, for example, without setting an particularly virtuous intention or motivation, you might focus on a flower or light for the cultivation of calm abiding. So flower in itself is not a virtuous object. Also light is not a virtuous object in that sense. So without correcting a specific motivation and without focusing on something that has those positive or virtuous qualities, such cultivation of calm abiding or calm abiding itself, shamatha, would be neutral.
아주 신입 드비 갑툭 들려야 단지 까법색 sik지 배주지라다 신입 그런 드비 갑툭 들려야 아니 개와 이 마인게 지단도 개와 이 마인데 야부시로 와서 얘네 딘nen가레모도스 샘피길이야 미볼레 데비 갑툭이야 디게 아니 균간 투야라야 고긴 가르치기도 델레는 튕긴 가르치고도 This samlataya di Geshe is.
And so here we're looking at the cultivation of calm abiding, concentration of calm abiding in a particular way. And so, of course, if we do it in a virtuous way, that's very good. But still, Geshe reckons that the main point in this presentation, when we develop an observation of a certain object, is to attempt to extend the flow of placement upon that object without being susceptible to adverse conditions, which means that we want to increase the duration of our placement upon that object to provide it with all the conditions supported for that, and to prevent unconducive conditions from arising.
지화의 산정의 샤기였으니 대리 지화 진행 산정의 샤기스 당아주 제라 아니 지화 띵 사보다 직찬장 용투메 하고 말아왔어. 안다 당아니 로지에다 다와시서지 라야 냠도 진도 순조인자 아니 게 가르치기 여바티 비 식세우면야 된다디 끼주 하고 그러왔어. 아니 당에서는 대리 딜랍고 람나 기어리어 말해 기기 말해라 안 람름 그 진짜디 아니냐면 대리 패시 지기는 타마드 차로 소리지 뒤질 때는 렌도 차기도스.
So if you have more questions, Geshe can set a time for more questions. This is probably the last Lamrim session for this year, or at least the one that Geshe and I work on together. So we have worked together for 8 years and 4 months. And even Geshe said that when you work with someone for such a long time, then even when you speak, your way of speaking is not that clear, the person knows you, so they can kind of clearly understand what you're saying. Anyway, this is likely to be the last Lamrim session, at least for this year. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably. And so it's the last Lamrim session for this year. So what's going to happen for the next few weeks is as follows. And so so next week we're going to have, I think, some form of meeting regarding one of Geshe's pet projects. So this is what's going to happen next week. I'm not sure about the details yet, but we'll find out soon. Anyway, then the week after that, we finish with the advanced study program for this year, and Geshe then is going away for a week. And so I will step in. I will lead the Friday morning session on the 16th and also the Sunday morning session on the 18th. So that will still happen. So you're welcome to come along. And then after Christmas, we're going to have Vajrasattva purification retreat happening, led by the wonderful Tsultrim, Carla Pierce. And after the New Year, the Christmas Jela. And after the New Year, Geshe will teach the annual Lamrim course together with Jen, that will come up from New South Wales to translate for the course. Yeah. And so Victoria is asking, if you're observing a tanka for this practice, do you include the things around the central figure or just the central figure? 근데 콜라밍네 시네 공부에 나와 아니 tambo 꼬야 보치 따고 그러봐 아니 계속 tanka지 때원이나 tanka딜라디 유디 하초 요발라얀 산사 콜라얀 다민다 지그러와 제선지 시네 공이나 tankal라 칸티버디 찹산된데 공고 그러베 아무나 하 찍고 공나 야가드베스
참 검초그레스.
no.
아니 페나당을 단들 람람 셰비 카둘라 람람 그 초시 여러. 다 만슈직 람람 그 초시 비게 요. 람람 그 초신기 이들이야. 아니 템버 tumbe원도 꾸지거레스. 라 디직보라 검니 난 디그레스. 야 참마 비게 야진주기다 사무도기다 드네마직다 아니 예담 최선 컨트롤러 소바 참아요도 참아지게되니 소송에니 나 검고에데 빼마세바 개침무차고 그랬어.
You can do either. You can do, if you can fit all the details in the tanka, you can do that. And so, for example, here we've been studying the presentation of the states of the path of enlightenment, the Lamrim tradition, and there is a tanka, a painting of the field of accumulation of the states of the path of enlightenment. So in the center of the field of accumulation, you have the teacher, Buddha, who is called, the Buddha has different names, Buddha Munindra. And so you can either use that, focus on that as an object for the cultivation of concentration of calm abiding, or you can, if you can also include all the details in the field of accumulation. So not only the Buddha, but also the assembly of bodhisattvas and Dharma protectors, the kinis and so forth, the yidams, Dharma protectors, deities, and so forth.
Jesus,
well, you said that you had a question that you wanted to ask a couple of days ago. 어디라디 그런 님은 니스구나 티어치 여슨 라도아.
아니
근데 지던전에 티어치래. 디 람는 기 티어리 라마레 제선딜라.
트레이너 지그랬어.
Yeah.
예.
Yeah, so go ahead, Paul. No, don't hold back.
Sorry, it might not be a very good question. So,
You're putting a disclaimer at the end.
yeah. So, I was reading a book by His Holiness Dalai Lama a couple of days ago, and it was for a general audience. But he talked about, it's very interesting. He quite deep teachings for a general audience. So saying that like the subtle level, there's no division between consciousness and matter in certain presentation. And then also he talked about the relationship between the internal and external elements. And so I have asked this question maybe slightly differently before, but like with respect to these phenomena, we see the external elements very out of balance now, and this being, related to the internal elements. By working with those internal elements through like working with the energies, is this like a way to really affect those minds and also then influence those external elements to like address this imbalance we see in the world?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I've kind of asked it before in a different way, but
Mm-hmm.
looking more towards the energy side.
And so in His Holiness's book, when he says that in some presentation, kind of when you get fine or subtle explanation, there is not much difference between consciousness and matter, or there is no difference. Is it is His Honor said that in relation to science or in relation to Buddhism?
Oh, he's saying this, it's in a book for kind of science, but he's talking about the Goya Samaja system.
그런데 야른 부지 착대지 따되기도와. 근데 이 착대디 딜라 야른 부지 지단지나 가롭지 난게로 와나. 근데 야른 부지 딜라 가르성교레스나 디 슝카시 대와이나 베지니 게 슝카데치나 스케치나 베지디 사모드발라서 바덴다오치 nenga samochi 대와이나 아니 참모라 탈라 semtan sukjimbe chulayan yemeba tademeba dendechi
라
tademeba yamana kagameba shachogeresa dinenga kare in hakumas
아니
de shebatan sukjimbe chu
수능 디비추
ya suk de shebatan suk 아니 양 ngacho samsam 중화딜라 난기 중화단 치 중화된 샤게르와 아니 텐상 ngacho 잠불린딜라 데디 중화데 차미냐 바차게르와 세상 쿠란 치와디 칸데 체레스나 그래서 ngacho 냐는 제와나 믹세기 나기 슝나 nangi shungdi nyamne chewaina di soso nangi jungwa dila chi chami nyamba imbala chan nyamba chi yamana chi lungtan chatan lungtan dila soba chi chigirwa chizan kiran samna di gombaina ani nangi jungwa tan chi jungwa dila dewa chi yona nangi jungwa de des chanyamba chi soina chi jungwa la yan des pentoiden da chi yorbe pena nangi jungwa de chanyamba soina dikengi chi jungwa des chanyawa des giwa ta chi den chi yon sigrebes yon sigrebes
카부로스 이 겨울무지기 사운드바 슬라운이다 아니치 산지기 추억난 것다 지 세토슈간이야. 세토슈간을 쓴 거래서 세토슈간을 쓴 뒤에 비게 류심 그 너단디 아니 하장기 아니 차위기 내든 텐디 시에요레스 대등하다 용 말아서라 더디니 디 텐디기 최디 냠nen chevalaya ngelaya tandanga zu ninjida chanjuk semseya da ani chik chö namki yilu se tuzu tolaya ani ngebordo koyoboch gugdos lagdon de chik sanga gi chö sengdi ani 상기야야 뉴놈 따오치 격보 상기야기 합시직 송고레스 상기야기 합시제야야 녜라야 상기엔되그 삼바티 로 오늘 상기살이야 드엔되그 삼바야 부치 삼바 템부치 용야 되려야 잔주고 셈데 니지세기 루이지 마세나 지금 수수 메시지 대기다 지금 아니 lun컴 대보다 지금 종시 야고 딘질라 미나바이나 아니 상가가 추가 냠나래야 로스 지 자원이니 더 요마레스 탁제 초거레스 라
Geshe reckons that that would be hard to expect that it will happen. It's very difficult. In that, for example, you mentioned the Guhya Samaja Tantra. His Holiness also sometimes speaks of the Guhya Samaja Tantra. That is probably the highest level of teachings of the Buddha Dhamma, in that it gets at very fine point, very subtle points related to the operation of our body and mind. And so you can say that although those teachings are found in the Tantra of Guhya Samaja, it's probably not at our current level of practice. And so to reach that level of practice, first off, we need to begin with generating compassion and bodhicitta, and also an insight into reality, the way that things exist. We need to understand them. We need to know them. Mantra, the practice of mantra or secret mantra, is regarded as a swift path, as a quick path to enlightenment. And so the techniques used in such practices as Guhya Samaja expedite the attainment of the state of Buddhahood. But first off, for that to work, we need to create a stable foundation. And a stable foundation begins with generating compassion and bodhicitta. And so without that, if our main focus would be on the affairs of this life, we will not be able to create that stable foundation.
대저당한테 남긴 종하기 치긴 종할이야 아니 슈겐세디 각부여레스 그래서 남긴 종하세나 차시지레스 저 남긴 종하세디 차진지레스 캡 최종 차네 캡 총하기 캡 체야야 온규 체세디 각부여레스 디소를 차고레스라.
Now, indeed, it is true that there is a connection between the inner and outer elements. However, Geshe feels that it'd be hard to work with the inner elements to change much with the external elements. After all, when we look at the elements in general, you can look at elements as a generality and then particularities within that, such as the inner element, which is a more smaller subset of the elements in general. So since it's a small subset of the elements, if we try to change something in a small subset with the expectation that will fix the greater category, Geshe reckons that that would be difficult for that to occur. And so since that is likely to be the last Lamrim session for this year before we continue with that in a few weeks next year, Geshe wanted to finish off this session with a few Lamrim prayers or recitations. Do you know okay. So Geshe will
제로무직 땜받은 자에 말람 당이 찍으려고 테네렌돈 벨렌 손이니 칸다리 양바 간시 사바디 로메 마린 제돈 드와고 남전 제베 옹보다 주식 대마선비 세럽군도 양 잠비 양지 제베 제송데 템비르바 군산 남진초 니네 드비 자남 니지쇼 랑기 지신 도베 람진네 슈라 제베 장베 탐기지 저위 지 몬바사지니 자베 템바 유린 진규식 템바린 진초기 마제바 찹제 냠바르 기 초데네 니지 진비 유럽겨바예 펜데데데 사우르 제바쇼 세지 개별 매종 틀레레 레주 장치 람지른 배장 탄제 남지 예라 파르신 자변 제바린도 경주지 람산 드빈 토젠 드지지 가지 세지 메다메 메군 세럽군도 자변가바예 남달람다 제벌 마주지 간지 태번 초라 추주주 수신 줄라 좀바 디이진 토젠 남지 다도 조지 자시 잠지 초군 잡주로지 자바마리 지비 야규진 자스 수지 신감 람주수 자외 춘전 토젠 덴빈 로상 제외 덴바지 주지 원즈 왕비 도기 장아르 담진즈나 힌들 진보시 시지 제외 아주 덴빈투 로상 제외 덴바지 주지 다주 zam민 기바비 위저는 투비 총도 세근 총원보로 최동 나신 론데 덴빈투 로상 제외 덴바지 주지 다바남다 다진 달리로 공바남다 지무문 바선 저바남다 제외 가진 로상 제외 덴바지 주지 만두 테바 자진 제외근 퇴전 지지 길라 제외 좀 공제 den주 등등고 여성 로상 제외 담바지 주지 장의 손으로 말lun가면도 간사지 기념는 담바를 네번 예배에 전다단계 로상 제외 담바지 주지 롱주 되는 숨지 천년 당 도비 담바라서 냠는데 캐신 TV 남들 매도총 로상 제외 담바지 주지 7년 주지 시신들을 난들이 난주 된다는 당가람상 감에 조선 로상 제외 담바지 주지 대바시비 동반이 제외 탑지 집이 대진당 냠주 충분히 전님이 로상 제외 담바지 주지 제외 숨지 랑지 소면서 윤생권다 남설의 시소 단소 탐시 잠준도 로상 제외 담바지 주지 돈나 반대 라미 고세된 계존된 담비 사당 담비 전당가다 달바에 로상 제외 담바지 주지 남은 거를 면주고가야 람주 자와 군진 친지 주 지도 대바 지선 잠배야 마산 당주 상조 선비지 군대 순부 덴비 계레주 부종 롱도 덴비 존재바 상지시지 군진 전주도 랑왕 물미 존재래 전부 안경와 종가바지 수나지 당주 전대 남지 미지부 반대라미 체력 군도단 제민이지 지술레 존재 송기도 우용 터버쇼 간디시 종동안에 뒤바 덴바렌지 스위 저민디 고 다소 이진 군수대 람도 계획시다 된저송 도난 감염성 제말리비 드니 장전 총인 이전에 라제 되는 배면은 드비 고시 공본통 원교로쇼 고시 단예 군진님이 저방면 방조제리진 장명 상다 드마 천년의 자당 자시신빈 손농당 대로 천도建筑 총리부 주진 계준내 주주소 등등 저라 집중 편제바建筑300马旅公司说通过这个上面干完之后送到一些从你这做的亲戚那边他是这边用作家庭有人把就是这看着就是存在那有个他们真是看了不去也了什么老板人子这边推荐的看着家庭有人把就是家庭家业那边定工作三毛周的出去带钱不上样你的为那他就是看着家庭有人把就是搞到是你别往前不看着去个无钱特别在工商端面就是这边他看着家庭有人把就是三毛大家去这边就用作当兵做我阿弟下家园中的另外当兵说看着家庭有人把就是电脑手机这边家园个当不结婚送的来这边他觉得的搞不是认真看着家庭有人把就是他觉得嘛把些吧都是说成了中的感觉那边中聪明人就告诉说没事往看着家庭有人把就是看着这个让人年纪3级当3年之这个我到当时看的工就是下家去看着家庭有人把就是说我年轻怎么是等于跟我们这边你们来其实呢那种往是就是单位说看着家庭有人把就是三毛没大的年这边3000多几这边人民了么3000边看老上这边的看着家庭有人把就是电脑中的就是有的用着冷静我讲着呢 Manora Nyamsu Lembi Losancho Kanjo Jadan Yurin Baji Jin Doji Janda Shisu Munzobi Chena Shenzum Tijin Kolo Ye Lonto Kabu Bunjon Losonki Kanjo Jadan Yurin Baji Ji Donna Shepi Kachi Namjo Dan Juji Shinda Chidan Shizo Donga Zonje Menga Dumiju Kanjo Jadan Yurin Baji Ji Tenzi Shabdun Tundun Gendun Nam Tenban Kolo Sunji Jawadan Tenla Tibi Jiva Sadan Jiva Rimi Jadan Yurin Baji Ji Jiden Kundu Mangchu Megidan Dukzu Samjura Miyam Rasin Yixin Chamdin Huju Kinsabe Dega Jamzu Choko Jabuji Daja Tene Yonzo Tembe Lam Gachin Semji Samu Tawala Tusum Gombi Chikdu Zombaye Tenyu Tendi Sala Nyurejo Namkita Dungiwe Sunjenshin Tongwang Jazi Yonjabala Shumdanganshin Lelong Bebada Yixin Dumbi Dragon Jubashu Dagulu Dalonjo Geva Manu Devi Gyurun Gyuvat Yada Gunji Dungan Kanjiba Tekun Dala Yonzumbajo Dan Tundu Tenda Mejeba Gunjan Degi Bela Jobadam Hunda Denzu Mini Rojaba Tamji Chanchi Velam Yi Gendish Dona Jisi Namka Nebadan Joya Dungan Neba Tisudu Daja Nedunga Jeba Pendi Chebo Nidun Jowara Sho Sanji Namzi Tudor Tamji Jung Kowan Jidan Sendo Wezon Tang Shaja Toba Kodom La Yela Sanji Babu Don La Chanzelo Sumjen Dundu Dagi Kawa Kanshi Judan Dagi Temba Dong Dagi Deva Tang Ye Temba Yurin Bajuji Ngon Nebin Chada Rangi Zoa Yong Tame Sumjen Boba Jevis Yurin Temba Bajuji Pada Bumun Choma Tang Nodan Lanji Chenda Tang Aranji Chanju Chedan Temba Yurin Bajuji Dagi Sanji Rang Sanji Nyante Pada Madani Chansu Tala Chujibi Temba Yurin Bajuji Kawa Shiva Tumata Dungana Zonyo Chanchiba Dundu Tuzabi Temba Yurin Bajuji Dagi Tsuru Tujudan Kadu Yurin Dinjin Choji Sanji Ngijibi Temba Yurin Bajuji Dangun Zongju Dandanbi Dadu Dinjibaran Sanji Damju Dundu Dadu Yurin Bajuji Zodu Dadu Dinjin Sunji Nimu Nimaye Sunji Ngijibi Temba Yurin Bajuji Samdan Namda Zumedan Tenzan Kanki Jinibo Gombe Dundu Dagini Temba Yurin Bajuji Ishi Dundu Dagingo Katuwa Nadan Dinjin Dinju Tumani Dembi Dagi Temba Bajuji Zivi Sharadan Chowa Yonsu Dinjin Yalani Ladan Waye Chunzu Namba Bijuji Dangun Divi Sunja Nama Chambi Sewa Minji Teba Sumula Rabgabi Shujin Shujin Jin Gyuruji Dangun Tabshu Kiba Na Sunja Dangan Leriji Yanda Dala Gujubi Chunzu Nama Bijuji Dagi Sunja Dungi Nimu Menen Daji Dagi Pedi Pamjibi Dango Yurin Yuji Dadin Dagi Mudi Shanda Tabi Chulu Tujidi Yanda Dala Guju Gujurbi Dango Dadu Gujuji Yurin Temba Bajuji Chuji Jabu Dungabi Chunzu Nama Bibala Gijin Tsama Shivada Tunje Malin Tsawarshu Dada Shinju Duzum Danjibin Sonyela Tene Jawa Losa Chaba Temba Yurin Bajuji. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, and so thank you very much. We'll finish off today with the recitation of the final Lamrim prayer. While my two collections vast as space have amassed from working with effort that is practiced for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose mind, wisdom, eyes blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in loving compassion for all lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of completed graded parts of the teachings. May I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path that I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going up with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by even this graded path to enlightenment, completed due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in honor of any of the lives on the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtues practices, may always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Thank you.